right. All right, I'm just going to test this and ask if Christy, can you see me?
Absolutely, Rob. I can see you and hear you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the release of the Free Alberta Strategy and Initiative. Before beginning, I'll introduce who is on the call and who is going to speak before we take questions from the media. For those that don't know me, my name is Rob Anderson. I'm former MLA from Airdrie. I'm currently a lawyer practicing litigation at Warnock Craft Anderson here in Alberta, and I'm a co-author of the strategy. We also have with us University of Calgary political scientist and published author, Dr. Barry Cooper, also a co-author of the strategy, and Mr. Derek Frum, a constitutional lawyer and civil liberties advocate, also here in Alberta. We have four sitting Alberta MLAs in attendance today who are endorsing the strategy. They include Ms. Angela Pitt, the MLA for Airdrie, Mr. Jason Stephan, MLA for Red Deer South, Mr. Drew Barnes, MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, and Mr. Todd Lowen, MLA for Central Peace Notley. I'd also like to recognize the Honorable Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Nathan Cooper, who is also in attendance today as an interested observer. After I introduce the strategy, the MLAs will each share some of their thoughts on it, and then we will turn it over for questions to the media. The PDF version of the paper, the strategy itself, which includes a brief executive summary, is available on the website at www.freealbertastrategy.com. So feel free to go there and download a copy. We've also sent a press release to you today with a summary of the strategy, as well as quotes from the various MLAs speaking today. But I'm going to give you a bit of a summary of the strategy to start, so that you have an understanding of what this is before proceeding to questions. Alberta's treatment within Canada has become intolerable. Successive federal governments in Ottawa have relentlessly attacked our province's economic interests, stifled our prosperity, and pillaged the resources and wealth of Alberta citizens to purchase electoral support in other parts of the country, as we just witnessed again in the most recent federal election. Albertans have tolerated the expropriation of our wealth for decades. However, the Ottawa anti-Alberta agenda has advanced a bridge too far in recent years, and now it poses an existential threat to our province's long-term economic viability. How else do you explain a $170 per ton carbon tax by the year 2030, making our key industries and energy and agriculture entirely uncompetitive with the rest of the world? How about the effective ban on new pipelines and shipping additional energy products to Asia via tanker ships, or blocking our oil from the eastern half of our own country while increasing imports from Middle Eastern dictatorships? These targeted attacks, and that's what they are, targeted attacks against Alberta, have resulted in lower incomes, higher unemployment, and billions in lost revenues for public services, for balanced budgets, and for lower taxes. Alberta is under assault from our own nation's capital. There is no other way to describe what is happening. The provincial government needs to take action now, and my fellow co-authors and I are proposing a strategy for the provincial government to do just that. It's called the Free Alberta Strategy, and it calls upon the government of Alberta to implement several key initiatives and reforms without asking any permission from Ottawa to do so. The Premier could do these things today if he wanted to. He just has to go and do it. First and foremost, this is a strategy for Alberta to declare itself a sovereign jurisdiction within the country of Canada. It is not a call for separation, at least not yet. That would be premature in our view. However, it is a call for Alberta to exercise its rights of self-determination and provincial autonomy to the fullest extent possible while still remaining a part of Canada. There are two key pillars of the strategy. The first pillar is the provincial government passing into law the Alberta Sovereignty Act. This would grant the Alberta legislature absolute and total discretion to refuse any provincial enforcement of federal laws or court rulings that, in its view, interfere with provincial areas of jurisdiction or that constitute an attack on the interests of Albertans. So, for example, this would include Alberta prohibiting any provincial legal enforcement of the federal carbon tax or the new No New Pipelines Act, or any attempts by any federal agency from regulating our province's energy sector or healthcare, education, or any other provincial area of jurisdiction in any manner whatsoever. So when a company, for example, wishes to commence an energy project in Alberta, say a Teck Resources as one example, they only need approval from one level of government, and that's the government of Alberta. The feds will have absolutely no say in the matter. The second pillar of the Free Alberta strategy deals with ending federal equalization and other federal transfers from Alberta. We have transferred more than $600 billion in net equalization and federal transfers to other parts of the country over the last 60 years, most of that in the last 20 years. We need that money for the health of Albertans, for their education, budget balances, and economic competitiveness here at home, not for vote buying schemes in Eastern Canada. This can be done, we propose, through the legislature passing into law the Equalization, Termination, and Tax Collection Act, which would establish an Alberta Revenue Agency to collect all provincial taxes and grant the provincial government authority to recover the total amount of equalization stolen by Ottawa from Alberta each year, among several other reforms. The Free Alberta strategy is a strategic plan for Alberta to assert its sovereignty, offload the burden of Ottawa's tyrannical economic policies against this province, and secure self-determination for the people of Alberta within a reformed Canada. I, along with the Alberta Institute, will be promoting this strategy in town halls and with political and community leaders across the province in the weeks and months ahead. And we hope to see many Albertans out there and share our ideas with them and hear their feedback on it. So with that, I'm going to ask MLA Angela Pitt to give her remarks, followed by MLAs Jason Steffen, Drew Barnes, and Todd Lowen. And after that, we will open the floor for questioning. MLA Pitt.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rob, and thanks everybody for being here. My name is Angela Pitt. I'm the MLA for Airdrie East, and I'm here to proudly endorse the Free Alberta strategy because I believe that our province can no longer wait to protect itself from Ottawa's continued attacks on our provincial economy. It doesn't seem to matter who is running Parliament. Alberta is either having billions of dollars stolen from it for vote buying schemes in other provinces, or more recently is watching our resources be actively landlocked by our own national government. These attacks on our province hurt real people, many people. They hurt our fellow Albertans. They result in job losses. They mean less healthcare and more crowded classrooms. They mean less resources for our seniors and women at risk. We need a viable plan to stop the bleeding and free Alberta to deliver its world-class and environmentally responsible energy resources to the world. And the Free Alberta strategy does just that. I would also like to note that this strategy includes many of the Fair Deal panel recommendations that our government has already endorsed. It's time to get moving on implementing these recommendations, as well as looking at the additional new ideas brought forward by this exciting strategy. That's why I support this initiative by Rob and the Alberta Institute, and I look forward to promoting this strategy in my community and in the legislature. Thank you for having me here today.
All right. Thanks very much, Angela. If we could turn it on over to Jason. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Rob, Barry, and Derek for taking the time and having the initiative to serve Albertans and provide some great substantive ideas on how we can improve Alberta for ourselves and for our children. Throughout the recent months, for myself, I am struck with the great importance of the principles of self-reliance and preparedness. And I believe that the Free Alberta strategy offers some practical and useful ideas that we can implement to improve our self-reliance. You know, the great thing about these ideas is that, you know, by small and simple things, we can have great outcomes. Honestly, many in Alberta are greatly concerned about hostile interference, unfortunately, from the East. And as a parent, I'm greatly concerned about protecting our children from a looming fiscal train wreck. With the national debt exceeding over $1 trillion, with no fetters on spending, I'm just very concerned. And I think it's really important that we do make sure that we get our own houses in order, both individually, in our families, in our communities, and provincially, by becoming more self-reliant and better prepared. I just want to thank, again, the authors of this great report. And I look forward to promoting the principles and ideas as Alberta seeks to achieve a fair deal, a principled deal, in our partnership with other provinces. Thank you.
All right. We can pass it on to MLA Drew Barnes.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts. First off, I want to give credit where credit is due. In providing this strategy, Professor Cooper, Mr. Fromm, and Rob Anderson, and the Alberta Institute are taking a step beyond just identifying the problem. They are proposing actual solutions. But on a more basic level, they are engaging in one of the most patriotic acts that a citizen can undertake. They are speaking truth to power. I can tell you from personal experience, when it comes to Alberta's mistreatment within Confederation, there are a lot of people in power who don't appreciate or like hearing the truth. So the truth doesn't go away, the truth persists. 21 years ago, another group of patriots provided a blueprint for change. This group was led by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and his solutions were outlined in what became known as the Firewall Letter. Mr. Harper recognized something that we've come to understand all too well. The fact is that those who benefit from Alberta's mistreatment will never willingly rectify Alberta's mistreatment. 21 years later, in retrospect, it's evident the Harper team was not successful in securing a fair deal. Many, if not all, of the problems outlined in the Alberta Firewall Letter still exist today. But I continue to hold Mr. Harper and his team in high esteem because they fought. They fought a fight worth winning. And at the end of the day, they just failed to understand the extent to which the game is rigged against Alberta families and communities. Folks, Albert Einstein said it, and I think he was right. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly, but expecting a different result. If we truly want to win this fight, we are going to need to change the game and the game plan. We need to reach outside the box for new solutions. And most importantly, we need to get tough and provide real consequences for Justin Trudeau, Ottawa, the Eastern elite who treat our province unfairly as just a scapegoat and a piggy bank. Professor Cooper and his team have provided us with some options. The Alberta Fair Deal panel, which I was proud to take part in and have a dissenting opinion, has provided some options. And there are likely many other good ideas out there as well. I welcome them all because they all bring us closer to a goal of winning a fair deal for Alberta, making Alberta the most free and prosperous place. Folks, there's a time for all things. There's a time for speaking truth to power, and like the truth, we must persist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Drew. Really appreciate those remarks. MLA Todd Lowen, if we can get him up and unmute him. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Rob, and thanks for having me here today. Good morning, everyone. First off, I want to thank the Free Alberta group for their work in this strategy they are presenting. When it comes to Alberta's mistreatment within the Confederation, this report tells us a story that sadly we have all heard before. Albertans are paying far more than our fair share with the Confederation, but we get no respect for our contributions. Ottawa has taken well over $600 billion more from Alberta taxpayers that have been returned to the province for our contributions. The problem didn't get better in more recent years, despite the oil price collapse and recession starting in 2014. Furthermore, Ottawa has stepped up its attacks with both a carbon tax and a fuel regulations designed to kill Alberta's energy industry while simultaneously seeking to landlock our exports. The notion of fighting for a fair deal was central to the UCP platform in 2019 that I campaigned on. Since that election, the idea of a fair deal has been a consistent topic of political discussion, including the formation of and the recommendations from the fair deal. What this strategy seeks to do is to be the next natural step in fighting for a fair deal. And for that, this group should be commended. We need to look no further back than the recent federal election to see party leaders announcing policies that would specifically harm Alberta's economy. We can't count on all of it to look after Alberta's best people. I know the discussion about this issue is by no means coming to an end anytime soon. But the bottom line is that words and reports alone won't result in a fair deal. Get a fair deal, whatever it might look like, we need real action. My hope is that this strategy gets us closer to the action that we so desperately need.
Thank you very much. There. Thank you very much, MLA Lowen. Really appreciate your remarks. I want to again thank all of the MLAs that spoke to this issue today. You know, I think it takes real courage to, as Drew said, to speak to power and to say what their constituents are thinking and saying and representing their constituents above anything else. And I really want to express my appreciation for their endorsement of the strategy and the ideas in it, and look forward to fighting for our province with these individuals on the initiatives that they're undertaking, as well as the Free Alberta strategy initiatives as well. So with that, what we will do is we will turn it over to questions from the media. Please be patient. If you can use the hand signal, if you know how to use that, it's on the reactions button on the tab below where your video is. If you scroll down there, you should be able to put your hand up. And if Christy, of course, is also moderating this, she's going to help us out if there's any questions on that. But we'll just take the questions one at a time from reporters. Just say who you're with and who the question's for, and we'll take it to there.
Excellent. Let's go to Don Braid. I'm going to unmute your microphone here. Go ahead with your question.
Sorry, Don, we can't hear you. When you'll have to unmute your when you get prompted, you'll have to unmute yourself and then ask the question. There you are. Go ahead. Okay.
Do not have a mic, but I do have a question here from Don.
Okay.
Happy to go ahead with that. So what does sovereignty mean to you in the Alberta context? It was the mantra of 2 Quebec referendum.
Yeah, good question. Sovereignty means the right and the power to govern yourself, to govern your own people and province. It means that the ultimate sovereign in the province of Alberta is going to be, under this strategy, the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, much like the National Assembly in Quebec is essentially has already declared their sovereignty over the affairs of their own province. What we're proposing is really not much different than what Quebec has done. And we're saying that when it comes to the decisions governing this province, whether that be on resources, environment, healthcare, education, anything that is a provincial jurisdiction under the Constitution of Canada, our say is final, meaning the legislature's say is final. And Ottawa can pass whatever bills that they want that disagree with what we say, what the legislature determines. However, if what Ottawa passes is not in line with what the Alberta government has said on the subject, the government of Alberta will be the sovereign determiner of what legislation will be enforced in the province of Alberta. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if you had a follow-up, Don.
It does look like there is a follow-up from Don, wondering what your view is of the equalization referendum.
Well, I think it's clear that equalization has to go. It's a ridiculous program that benefits one half of our country at the expense of primarily Alberta. It rewards terrible policy in the recipients of the provinces that receive it. And it makes no sense. It certainly makes no sense for Alberta, so it has to stop. I don't know if we needed a referendum on that. It seems pretty clear that it needs to go. But obviously, I'll be voting to get rid of equalization. I just don't know what effect that would have ultimately. And Don, did you have any other questions? Maybe a last follow-up if you wanted to.
There is one in the chat here, Rob. Where's the premier on this?
Where's the premier on this? Sorry.
Yes, and have you spoken with him?
You'll be certainly one of our first calls will be to try to meet with the premier and go over this this policy and strategy with him. And as advisors. I think it would make a lot of sense for his government to make this their official policy moving forward. We can't wait any longer. We don't have much time. Our energy industry is in critical condition. People aren't investing here. The international community isn't investing here anymore, and we have a very short window here to get back on track before we become a has-been and a have-not province. So the premier's got some time here to get things back on the rails with regards to this issue, and hope he takes advantage of that opportunity. All right. Do we have a question from another reporter?
We sure do. We have James Keller with a question. So go ahead and unmute yourself, James.
I've got a question for MLAs Pitt and Stephen. Related to all this, but do you have confidence in the premier right now, and should he still be in the job? And also, I'm not sure if Nathan Cooper is able to take questions, but same question to him. So all three of them.
The speaker will not be taking questions. He's here as an interested observer only, but I will pass it on to MLA Pitt on answering that question, and MLA Stefan if they'd like.
Perfect. MLA Pitt, your mic is open.
Okay. All right, ask all the hard questions first. The answer to that question is no, I don't. And I don't think that my constituents do either. However, I think that there is a place for the grassroots to take charge of this type of decision, and that's where it will lie for now.
MLA Jason Stephan.
Great. My answer is somewhat similar to my colleague Angela. There's going to be a leadership review in the spring, and that is good principle of governance, and the members will decide, not me, not Angela, but the members who elected the premier will decide whether they wish to have him continue as the leader. And I'll respect that decision, and I look forward to that happening.
Thank you.
James, did you have a follow-up?
I do. I know that you said that Nathan Cooper isn't taking questions. I'm going to ask anyways, and if he wants to leave this hanging, then that's really up to him. Earlier this year, he apologized for signing his name to a letter questioning the pandemic restrictions. So I'm just wondering, how is it at all appropriate for the speaker to be participating in essentially a sovereignty campaign launch? And how do you stay on in the job? Again, he can decline, but that's the question.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'll let MLA Jason Stephan get to it. Obviously, you've framed a question for the speaker. He's made it very clear he's here as an interested observer, and he's not taking questions today. So if you want to conjure up some report to that effect, I guess you go right ahead. But I'll let MLA Jason Stephan answer.
Yeah, James, I disagree with the premise of your question. I don't think this is framed really as a question of sovereignty. To me, it's a question of self-reliance. And the ideas in the Free Alberta Strategy complement, don't compete with the Premier and the UCP search for a fair deal to serve the public interest of all Albertans.
All right. Next question, please.
All righty. Tom Vernon, your mic is open.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my question. It's probably for you, Rob. It's a constitutional question. On the equalization side of things, you're talking about collecting taxes here in Alberta and recouping equalization money. Are you advocating for equalization comes from federal taxes? Are you advocating just not sending federal taxes to Ottawa?
That's a good question. There's several things that we can do. When we speak about equalization, first off, we need to understand what we're talking about because it's used in different ways. There's the equalization formula, of course, which you're probably very familiar with, that has a set formula based on various factors, revenues of the provinces and so forth. And then that's put into a bucket and redistributed to other provinces, mostly to Quebec. It's a very rigged formula. It's ridiculous, frankly, but that's equalization. Then there's also the federal transfer piece where you just have, as you say, the tax revenues go to Ottawa, and then they're just regular tax revenues, and then they're distributed through various programs and so forth. And what happens when we say equalization and federal transfers and 600 billion over 60 years, what's being referred to here is the amount more that Albertans have paid in taxes than they've received back in benefits and services as compared to the other provinces. So that includes, just grants for different infrastructure programs, health grants, and so forth. It includes everything. It also includes, for example, what we pay roughly about $3 billion a year more into the Canada Pension Plan than we receive back for our seniors. Here in benefits for our seniors. So there's another example of something that would be kind of in that equalization envelope, so to speak. So what we're saying is there's a multifaceted approach, and some of these are fair deal recommendations. There, for example, replace the CPP with an Alberta pension plan. Right there, that's $3 billion a year saved on equalization. Obviously, renegotiating or getting rid of the equalization formula as it is right now would be billions in savings to Alberta every year. There's also unemployment insurance. We pay roughly $1.5 to $2 billion more into that program than we get back for our unemployed workers. Why not have an Alberta employment insurance plan? So those are some of the examples. And then there's also in our strategy, as you'll note, we talk about ways that if we collect our own provincial taxes, then we can, aside from that, if we collect, when we pay our provincial employees, we can withhold at source the withholdings that we would generally give to the CRA on their behalf. We would instead remit to the Alberta Treasury, and of course try to offset equalization and transfer payments that way as well. Do you have one follow-up question as well, Tom?
Yeah, I don't see how passing legislation in Alberta would supersede federal legislation. I mean, you'd have to be fully sovereign, wouldn't you, to actually not have to follow federal law. So I appreciate the words you're saying, but I don't see the path to actually it working. Can you explain constitutionally how this works?
Well, first of all, I want to make it very clear. Some of these reforms will be declared by Ottawa to be unconstitutional. There is no doubt about it. You can take it to the bank. They will say that. They will find a way to frame it as unconstitutional. However, in our view, what's happened over the last several decades is that it is the federal government, as supported by the Supreme Court of Canada, that has passed unconstitutional law and decision after unconstitutional law and decision infringing upon Alberta's clearly defined jurisdictional rights under Section 91 and 92 of the Constitution. So, give you a concrete example of how this would work. The Alberta government controls, if they had their own police force, which is one of the recommendations, they control virtually all enforcement of law in the province of Alberta. So if Ottawa passes a law like the carbon tax that we believe is against our constitutional rights as a province, we will declare under the Alberta Sovereignty Act that the enforcement arm of the provincial government, whether that be police, enforcement against personal property under the Civil Enforcement Act, which is provincial, under the Personal Property Registry Act, which is also provincial, and so forth, that we will not enforce unconstitutional laws in Alberta. Maybe that's the gun registry. That would be another example. We don't need to enforce. The province is sovereign. If they pass this piece of legislation, it's just a declaration that we are sovereign. We are a sovereign jurisdiction within the country of Canada, and we will enforce only laws that we deem as constitutional and within the jurisdiction of the federal government to pass. And if they pass something that's outside their jurisdiction, they can pass it all they want. We're not going to enforce it here. And that's I think the cornerstone of the Alberta Sovereignty Act and what that would mean on a practical basis. But there's no doubt it'll be called unconstitutional. You know what? I think a little constitutional crisis is a good thing from time to time. It gets people talking about the utter dysfunction of this country and how it needs to be fixed, or we're gonna lose an amazing opportunity as a people. Next question.
Catherine, go ahead.
Hi, Catherine Grukowski with Alberta Today. Rob, I'll pick up on something you just said. You said that you would not enforce anything that's unconstitutional. You brought up the carbon tax, but the Supreme Court of Canada has ruled it to be constitutional. So I guess, can you explain how it would be unconstitutional if the Supreme Court has ruled it so? Yeah,
no, again, good question. Again, the Alberta Sovereignty Act, the whole purpose behind it is to say that think about it as a notwithstanding clause for provincial jurisdictional issues. As you know, the notwithstanding clause just applies to the charter. What we're saying here with regards to, this is a notwithstanding clause for provincial jurisdictional issues. So we're saying that regardless of what Ottawa passes, and regardless of whether the Supreme Court says it's constitutional or not, if the Alberta government under the Alberta Sovereignty Act deems it to be unconstitutional, deems it to be an infringement of our provincial jurisdictional rights, we will not enforce it here, period. It's essentially a notwithstanding clause for provincial jurisdictional issues as opposed to charter issues. You have a follow-up?
Yeah, I have another question. This is coming ahead of the equalization referendum that's going to be held by the fall, and I know that the independent MLAs have spoken about how voters could choose to take it as a referendum on Jason Kenney rather than actually on the question of equalization. But what happens with this strategy if there's a clear rejection by voters against removing equalization from the Constitution?
Well, I don't think it will mean much, because I don't think, I mean, if we really look about what's going on, being in the middle of a pandemic and so forth, there hasn't been any talk about the referendum at all. There's been really no attempt to advocate or promote it from the government of Alberta in any kind of sustained, organized way. So I'm not really sure what the referendum is going to mean. I know how I'm going to vote on it. I'm going to support getting rid of equalization, clearly, and I would advocate that all Albertans do the same. It's harmful to Albertans. So regardless of how you feel about Jason Kenney, Premier Kenney, you should vote to get rid of the formula. However, I take your point that obviously there's a chance it turns into some kind of referendum on the premier, and of course he's struggling right now. So I guess I would say I don't put a lot of stock on it, whether it's 90%, 60%, 40%. To me, it's a bit of a referendum about not too much, and it's not being debated and it's not really being promoted right now. But that said, definitely advocate that people get out and vote and say that we should get rid of that formula as quickly as possible. Thanks for those questions. Next question.
Alex from the Western Producer, go ahead.
Hi, this is a question for either the speaker or deputy speaker. Will you be using the legislative branch of the Alberta legislature to advance the causes of the Free Alberta strategy?
Speaker Cooper is just here as an interested observer. He's not participating in the news conference, so I'm sure you can contact his office about that if you like.
Anything further, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Angela Pitt, Deputy Speaker Angela Pitt would like to answer that question.
Sure. Angela, go ahead.
There we go. Sorry for the delay in there. I don't actually have much of an answer for you. There isn't really a mechanism for the speaker or the deputy speaker to use the Legislative Assembly for any of this, other than as individual representatives for the people in our constituencies.
Did you have a follow-up to that?
Yes, I mean, so if debate comes up in this issue, the Free Alberta strategy is part of a debate at the legislature, will you just sit in the chair or recuse yourself?
I guess that kind of depends on the circumstance. As the deputy speaker, I don't usually preside and participate in debate at the same time. So if the opportunity to debate this issue came up in the legislature, I would certainly make arrangements for someone else to preside over that debate.
All right, thanks. Any other questions?
We do have a question here from Michelle Belafontaine. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi there. This is a question for Angela. You said earlier that you didn't have confidence in Premier Kenney. Can you tell us why?
I think the last 18 months has been challenging, no doubt, for sure. And I certainly can appreciate the difficult position that the Premier has been in, making the very difficult decisions that he has to, and many around the world in dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. I believe that we are in a spot right now while Albertans no longer trust the Premier and therefore our government, and it makes it very, very difficult to govern a province when the trust in the leader is highly diminished.
As a follow-up, if that's the case, then why are you still in the caucus?
Well, my constituents certainly haven't asked me to leave this party. I think that many of them still view the United Conservative Party as the future of this province. And like I said before, I think that the membership of myself in this party and the premier in this party is a decision to be made by the grassroots members.
All right. Well, thanks, Michelle. Any other questions from the media, or was that the last one, Christy?
Rob, there are a couple more. Do you see Don Braid's question in the chat here?
Oh, sorry. Can you read it out? I don't.
Absolutely, I can. It says Quebec doesn't have any formal ability to reject federal law. It just uses political weight to disagree, and Fed politicians more and more accept that. What happens to Alberta within Canada if we just start saying no to taxes? Have you considered Ottawa's power to retaliate?
Well, we'll see. You know what happens if we don't do something? Nothing. And that's unacceptable. We can't just sit around and get pounded to dust here, which is what's happening. We can't just sit here and watch our energy producers and egg producers just get the crap beat out of them over and over and over again and not do a single bloody thing about it. And so we got to do something. And Quebec, the Quebec example, Don, I don't know. Quebec has no constitutional right to deny access of a pipeline from Alberta through to New Brunswick. There is zero constitutional backing for them denying that pipeline to be built. And yet they pass a motion saying that it will be that it is not or a law and legislation saying that that is not going to be permitted. And it has the force and effect of law. I think sometimes what we do as Canadians is because we like to play nice in the sandbox, is we think that sometimes when it gets in the corners and things get a little bit rough, we kind of back up and say, ooh, but is that against the rules? It might be against the rules, but the rules are rigged. They're rigged, and they're rigged against our province, and they're destroying our economy piece by piece. We're going to be a shadow of our former self. We already are to some extent. We have to push back, and if that means putting the elbows up in the corner a little bit and playing not so nice sometimes, then we got to do that. We've got to stick up for ourselves, and the Free Alberta strategy provides for that.
Oh, looks like Jason Markusoff has a question here. Go ahead, Jason.
Good morning, and thanks for taking my question. This one is for Angela Pitt and Jason Steffen as well. Is it your hope or expectation that this Free Alberta strategy become, that somebody carries it forward in a UCP leadership campaign that would follow Jason Kenney's leadership review?
Go ahead, Jason.
I don't really have any fixed opinions on that. I think there's a lot of really great ideas in the Free Alberta strategy that would serve the public interest related to Alberta businesses and families. We've been blessed with such great prosperity in our province historically. And for me, it's a tragedy to see it being eroded away. I want my children to have the same opportunities. So, you know, I haven't really formulated any thoughts on that. You know, I hope that our premier, our current premier, Premier Kenney, looks at the Free Alberta strategy and considers the ideas on their merits. And perhaps there's also other great ideas that can come out of this that no one's thought of yet, that again will benefit Alberta businesses and families. But I just appreciate the hard work and initiative taken by the authors of this strategy. And let's take the best parts of it and apply it for the public interest of Albertans.
Thanks, Jason. Angela?
Yeah, I mean, ditto what Jason said, you know, bang on. Let's, you know, good ideas are good ideas. And, you know, as Rob and the crew travel around the province, getting feedback and sharing their ideas and really delving into the individual issues themselves, I think that, you know, Albertans ultimately will be the ones that decide what they think is good for their families and the people in this province.
Thank you. All right, we have
follow-up question.
Sorry, no, you're
You
right,
were,
Jason. My
yeah,
bad.
no, I appreciate that, Rob. To Jason and Angela again. You were speaking, specifically, Jason, you were speaking about that, you know, you're looking forward to this leadership review in the spring. You in a Facebook post, and I know several constituency associations have been talking about wanting to fast track something sooner, something by March 1st at the latest. Would you prefer an earlier leadership review than March 1st for Mr. Kenny?
You know, I want things done in an orderly, transparent way that allows the members to have their voice. You know, Premier Kenny, he has many great strengths and abilities, which I respect. You know, and to me, the principles of the party are what my paramount loyalty is to. Leaders come and go. I will come and go in my stewardship as an MLA. And I'm not really fixed on the exact timing of it. The spring has been, that's when it's going to take place. If the constituency associations wish to specify when in the spring that will happen, I certainly respect that democratic process.
Excellent. Go ahead.
I don't have anything to add.
We have four.
Are you sure,
four more.
Angela?
Thanks.
Jason speaks so well. He says it all.
Yeah.
Too many Jasons, this muddies the water.
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of Jasons here. We have four more questions, and then we're gonna shut it down after that. So the four that have their hands up right now, we'll take, and then we'll end the press conference. You're on the press release that we sent out. There's a contact there, so if you want to do any kind of a follow-up interview, just or questions, just send those in. All right, so go ahead. Who's next, Christy?
I've got James Keller here again. Go ahead, James.
Hi, just a quick follow-up to Jason Steffen. You seem to disagree with my categorization of this as a sovereignty campaign. I mean, the first bullet point is passing the Sovereignty Act. We heard that the idea is that Alberta declares itself sovereign. So I'm just curious what you think this is about, if this isn't sovereignty, and what's the issue with that word for you? I mean, given again that this seems to be the main thrust of what we're hearing today.
Well, I'll pass it on to Jason there, but I'll just say that if sovereignty from the strategy's author's point of view is not the same as separation, if that's what you're trying to say, that's not what this is. It's saying that Alberta will be the sovereign, the last determiner of legislation with regards to its jurisdictional issues, regardless of what Ottawa says. It'll be the final arbitrator of what is law and what is enforced here in the province of Alberta. It's not separation, so as long as that's clear. But go ahead, Jason.
Sure. To me, in large part, what this initiative speaks to and other great ideas is about producing hope for Albertans. When we are powerless to act, that destroys hope. Certainly during this time of COVID, I think that a lot of hopelessness is found when Albertans individually and in their families don't feel that they have the opportunity to act. The great thing about the Free Alberta strategy, when I think about the word sovereignty, I think of it more as a principle of self-reliance and preparedness, and less about a position. And I think that the nuance is important. I know that sometimes in the media, sometimes nuance, unfortunately, isn't as precise as it can be. I practiced law before I had the opportunity to serve as an MLA. But when I think of the word sovereignty, I think of it more as a principle of self-reliance and less about a position.
Thanks. All right, next question.
Go ahead, Catherine, your mic should be open.
Yeah, two more questions. The first is a very technical one. For these bills that are being proposed, would the idea that they be coming from as a private member's bill, or is the hope that they be a government bill?
Well, the initiative's goal is to make the strategy certainly the key portions of the strategy, see them implemented as the provincial government's official policy on provincial rights. So we would very much welcome the Premier and his cabinet to bring these pieces of proposed legislation forward as a government. Obviously, some of these are big undertakings, and they're kind of out. Most of them are outside the scope of a private member's bill. They deal with a lot of them deal with money, and these are very heavy issues. So although maybe some private members' motions might work for something like this, this would need the backing of the provincial government, and that's what we're seeking.
And another question, I'm trying to imagine what the reaction to the strategy would be. And this is all happening at the backdrop where other provinces are preparing to take patients from Alberta. The military is providing resources to assist in our healthcare system. What would you say to people who would point out that the Confederation is helping Alberta right now at its time of need?
It's a very good point. To be clear, the strategy is obviously one to keep Alberta in Canada, but as a sovereign jurisdiction within Canada, much like Quebec is right now. And we would obviously still want to be a member of Confederation. We would still want to, when other provinces are in need, support them in their time of need, and we would ask for that support back. Obviously, we're trying to pull together as a country to deal with this pandemic. I don't think that changes, the strategy changes things. This is what this speaks to are the systemic breakdowns and dysfunction in our Confederation right now. It's just, it really is beyond belief that we have our own federal government blatantly and consistently, year after year after year, attacking the economies of one of its own provinces. And that's what it is. People like to say, oh, well, it's not attacking, it's just bad policy. No, these are attacks on our primary industries with the goal of phasing them out of existence, and without any say by our province while doing so. And that's a problem. The rest of the world is laughing at us in that regard. And what's so ironic is that a strong Alberta in a time of a pandemic, for example, or any other national crisis, if we had a strong Alberta with a strong economy, that means we have a strong Canada with a strong economy. And that means that instead of having 200 ICU beds or 316 ICU beds to fight a pandemic in this province, maybe we'd have the money to staff 5 or 6 or 700 of those beds. So it all comes back to this idea that as a province, we need to have the resources, our own resources. We're not asking for people to send the resources over here. We need our own resources here at home to deal with these exact same problems that we're seeing right now. And we don't. And one of the underlying reasons we don't is because we've been robbed blind by the federal government for 60 years, definitely over the last 20 years. And it needs to stop, or else we're going to be constantly relying on them to bail us out of various situations because we're bankrupt and can't afford to, because they've robbed us blind. So this goes to the systemic issues, but of course we want to help Canada, and Canada should want to help us, and we should pull together during this time of crisis. Go ahead. Did you have follow-up? You're good.
Yeah, so we've got Alex here as well with a question before we take the last.
Alex McQuaig, Western producer. Yeah, just on the legislative question again, I guess this is to Deputy Speaker Pitt. I mean, if it's a government bill, you have participation, although limited with the speaker in this press conference here. You've got your steadfast support of this Free Alberta strategy. I mean, how is it possible to have a debate on a government bill under those circumstances? And secondly, do you fear a vote of non-confidence during this fall session?
MLA Angela, do you want to answer that?
Yes, sorry, it takes forever to get there. the role of the deputy speaker is different than the role of the speaker in the Legislative Assembly, and I am able to participate in debates and votes so long as I don't preside over. That means sit in the chair while that debate is happening. So alternative arrangements can be made in those particular cases.
But I guess that's the question. I mean, the alternative measures would be having the speaker who's participating in this, although limited. But I mean, I think that there's a perception there that the speaker's involvement, although limited in this Free Alberta strategy, his participation is in fact would conflict him out of these debates. I mean, that leaves your deputy chair of committees. I mean, is that the plan here if this comes up as a government bill or a private member's bill?
Well, we'll deal with that situation should it arise, and hopefully it does. And I think that there's a path forward to that. We do have a deputy chair of committees, and we have a number of other members in the assembly that help us out from time to time as well. So, you know, we'll deal with that as the time arises. But I've certainly participated in debates and votes in the legislative assembly before on issues that are particularly important, and arrangements can be made. And you know, there's always a way to get things done.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about your role as an MLA. I'm talking about your role as a deputy speaker. But I guess the question is, would you understand if there's a vote of non-confidence against you and Speaker Cooper?
I mean, the members in the assembly at any time can choose who their speaker, their deputy chair of committee is, you know, and it is what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, last question. I think it's Michelle.
It is indeed Michelle. Go right ahead.
I have a question for Jason Steffen. Jason, are you still there? Jason? Yeah. Okay. Jason, I know earlier that Angela Pitt said she didn't have confidence in the Premier. And I didn't really understand your answer, like where your position is on the Premier's leadership. And I wonder if you can share that with us.
Well, I'm not really seeking a narrative of contention on this call. I want to be supportive of the Free Alberta strategy. I admire and respect the Premier and the things that he's accomplished. I haven't agreed with everything that the Premier has said or done. And I'm certainly the first to acknowledge my own imperfections. But as it stands right now, we are working as a government through the COVID crisis. And that does need to be the paramount focus of government. There will be a spring leadership review. And I think that is an important thing to occur at that time. Leadership review is not something unique to the United Conservative Party, but it's about a principle of good governance where the membership decides who they wish to have as their leader going forward. And of course, that changes from time to time. We each have different strengths and weaknesses, and the members can make that honest evaluation of the Premier. So my particular opinion of the Premier is not really that important. There will be a leadership review, and I will have one vote, just like every other member of the party.
With respect, MLA Steffen, you're a member of a 60-person caucus, so yes, your opinion actually does matter. And I would also suggest that, I mean, I wouldn't be asking these questions of you during this news conference if we had more access to you and that you actually returned reporters' calls. So I'm going to ask you again. So you suggest that you're not prepared then to say whether or not that Jason Kenney has your confidence as an MLA in his caucus?
I have expressed my perspectives quite openly in caucus. I don't avoid reporters. Reporters that call my personal home, though, I do object to that, and I've certainly received that. And I would ask that all reporters be respectful of the private lives and families of the members in legislatures. So I have spoken in terms of principle. My position one way or the other on the Premier is one vote relative to the members as well.
I just I'll just thank you very much for that, Jason. I was just going to let Don Braid, he had a question for Dr. Cooper. And I just want to make sure Dr. Cooper's still on here. And I believe he is. And Don, did you have the question in chat? And
let's see, I don't think Don has audio, but we will give him a chance to type a question here to Dr. Cooper if needed.
okay, the question is, Barry, are you still on the call? Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so the question from Dawn is, I'm just going to scroll up here. What is your academic assessment of the chances of this strategy actually working?
This is, I would say, is a political strategy, not a legal one. The other two authors are, of course, both lawyers, but it's all about politics. And if we have a leader in this province who sees the political possibility of actually doing something to rectify all of the long train of abuses that goes back a couple of generations, then it can be done. If we don't, or Albertans are quite happy to put up with being exploited for the next couple of generations, then nothing will happen. Politics is about taking action. And we've suggested a strategy for action. Whether politicians take it up is pretty much up to them. And it's up to ordinary Albertans to suggest that that'd be a really good idea.
Thank you. And any follow-up to that, Don, or are you good? Just give you a second to type. He's good. All right, everyone. As I said earlier, feel free to contact Christy at the number on the press release. She can put it in the chat too if she wants, to arrange any further interviews regarding this. But for now, that concludes our press conference. Thanks again to the MLAs, the 4 MLAs endorsing the strategy here today. And hope you have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.